This is going to be the answer key, or I'm going to go through the answers for pages 224, 225, and 226 in your math student book. So this is area challenges, page 224. Number 1, it says a certain rectangle has an area of 693 square meters. This rectangle is 7 meters wide. How long is it? Part A says, make a sketch that shows what you know about the situation. So, what we know is that there's a rectangle and it has an area of 693 square meters. And we also know that the width is 7 meters. And so what we're trying to figure out is this dimension right there, the length. Part B says write an equation to represent this problem. There's two ways you could do this. You could do 7 times something equals 693, or 693 divided by 7 equals something. And you're welcome to use a variable instead of just a question mark. Part C says use an array or a ratio table to model and solve this problem. I'm going to use a ratio table. And so we're multiplying, if we think about this, okay, what we're trying to find, we're multiplying by 7. So it's going to be like a times 7 ratio table. And of course, we could start with 1 times 7, which is 7. But this would be a good problem to do an over strategy, because I'm noticing that we want to get to 693, and I'm noticing that that's pretty close to 700. And so what I might do, one strategy, would be to jump up to 100. And once you're there, then we know that that's 700, and that's really close to where we want to be with 693. And so we're going to think about the difference between where we're at and where we want to be. And this is something that you can probably do in your head. 700 minus 693 is 7, so we're only 7 away. And so what that means is, again, my ratio table here is a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but that's okay. If we just go down one group of 7, then we will get to 693. And so that's using what's called the over strategy, which we've talked about before, where you actually go over the number you want and then work your way back down. And you could also work your way up. So you could do, instead of going to 100, you could have done like 50 groups of 7, and then 20 more groups of 7, and 20 more groups of 7. And either way, you should end up with 99. Number 2 says use an array or a ratio table to model and solve problems 2A and 2B. Show all of your work. So for A, it says a paved bike trail has an area of 7,147 square feet. If the trail is 7 feet wide, how long is the trail? This is a situation just for demonstration purposes where I'll use an array or an area model. And so we've got a long trail, and we know that it's 7 feet wide. And the area is 7,147 square feet. And so we're trying to figure out how long it is. However, what we're going to do is we're going to work our way up to that number. So this is the full area, but I don't know how to get there yet. So I'm going to do what I can. So I know that it could be at least 1,000 feet long. And so 7 times 1,000 is 7,000. But it's actually has a larger area than that, right? It's 7,147. So I need to keep going. So I might do another 10 feet, let's say. And that would be another 70 square feet for the area. So now I'm at 7,070. So I'm getting closer, but we need to keep going. I could do another 10. Okay, that's another 70. And now, if I add all of these together, I'm at 7,140. So I'm really close. We want to be at 7,147, and we're currently at 7,140. So that just means we need one more foot, which gives us 7 more square feet. And that means that we are at 7,147, where we want to be. And the answer to how long it is to add up all of these. So 1,000 plus 10 plus 10 plus 1, and that gets us an answer of 1,021. Oops. 1,021 is our final answer. And that's in feet. So we always want to use the correct units as well. 1,021 feet. Okay, moving on to part B. Just to change it up, I'll use a ratio table for this. So the problem is 3,521 divided by 7 equals something. Another way to think about this, of course, is, is 7 times what equals 3,521. And so using a ratio table, the rule is times 7. And we're going to work our way up. And what we want is to end up at 3,521. I might start with 100, because I know that 100 times 7 is 700, and that's well below where we need to be. I might double that to 200. That gets us to 1,400. I might double that again, and I know that 7 times 400, or 1,400 doubled, or 7 times 400, either way you think about it, is 2,800. So we're getting closer. And then I'm going to think to myself, I notice that these two added together are going to be 3,500. Pretend this is a comma right here. 3,500, and that's really close. So 3,500, and the way I got that was by adding 100 plus 400, which of course is 500. And that makes sense because we can also just think through this as a large multiplication problem. 7 times 500 is 3,500 because 7 times 5 is 35. Here's where we want to think about the difference. We're trying to get 3,521. Currently we're at 3,500. That means we need 21 more. 7 times what equals 21? I know that 7 times 3 equals 21. And so we're just going to extend this one more spot. Okay. These added together give us the total that we want, 3,521. And that means these added together give us the top number in that column, and that is the answer, 503. On to the second page, number 3, the challenge. Use a ratio table or an array to model and solve each of the problems below. Show all of your work. If you think you'll need more room, do these problems in your math chart. Part A, 340 divided by 8. I'll use a ratio table for this. And again, we can think of this as 8 times what equals 340. And so times 8 is the rule for this ratio table. And I'm going to start with, you can start anywhere you're comfortable, but I'm going to start with 10. And I know 10 times 8 is 80. 20 times 8 is 160. I'm going to double that. So I'm going to go from 20 to 40, which means I double this number as well. 160 plus 160 is 320. And that gets me pretty close. But I'm not quite there yet. So now I'm going to think about what is the difference between 340, where I'm trying to get to, and 320, where I currently am. And in my head, I know that that is 20. So now I'm thinking to myself, how can I get to 20 multiplying by 8? And just over here, we'll think 8, 16, 24. I'm not going to be able to get to 20 exactly. So then what I want to do is I just want to get as close as possible. So what that means is I can do 2 more groups of 8. That's 16. And when I add these up, I'm at 336. And the way that I got to 336 is by taking 8 and multiplying it by 42. And that is as close as I can get without going over, and that's the goal. So sometimes it helps to think of this as like a real thing. If I had 340, let's say, pencils, and I was dividing them between 8 students, each student could get 42 pencils, and then there would be 4 left over. So this is going to be 42, remainder 4. The remainder 4 because here's where we could get to, and that's 4 away from 340. Part B, it says Petra is raking leaves in her backyard. Petra's backyard is rectangular and has an area of 476 square feet. One side of the backyard is 28 feet. How long is the other side? And so this one, I'm going to use an area model or an array. And so we have her backyard, and it looks like this. Whoops, sorry. It looks like this. Okay, and we know that the area is 476. So if I continued and drew a rectangle, then the inside area would be 476. But I'm going to start by doing 10. Try to make it a little neater than that. Okay. And if it was 10, then the area would be 280. But it's not. It's more than that. I might do 5 more. And I can easily do 5 more because 5 is half of 10. So this area, I didn't draw it accurately, but it's going to be half the area of this. So I know that 280 cut in half is 140. And now I'm gonna check in and see where I'm at. So over here, maybe I'm just gonna add these together and figure out what my total area is so far. And I know that it's 420. Where I want it to be is 476. So I need to keep going, but I'm fairly close. 476 minus 420 is 56. And so what that means is I need to go so that I have 56 more square feet. And I happen to know that 28 plus 28 is 56. Another way to think of that is 28 times 2. And so I started with a small partial area, and I just kept adding to it until all of these combined add up to 476. We already knew that one side was 28 feet long, so the other side is found by adding these three numbers together. 10 plus 5 plus 2, and that means that it was 17 feet long. Okay, last problem, letter C. 900 divided by 36. This can also be thought of as 36 times what equals 900. And I'm going to use a ratio table. And so we're multiplying by 36. And I'm going to start with just something that I'm comfortable with. I'm going to start with 10. And I know that 10 times 36 is 360. I'm going to double that, so 20 times 36, and that means I'm doubling 360. And if you need to, you can just do a quick addition problem off to the side, and you'll get 720. I can already tell, I'm just sort of thinking through this in my head, if I do 360 plus 720, that's going to be over 1,000, so that's going to be too much. So I'm not going to add those together. I might do, I might go to 5 next. And I know that 5 is half of 10. And so to figure out what goes underneath the 5, I'm thinking half of 360. And a good way to think about this is think about angles. And in a full circle, there's 360 degrees. And so you might know that a half of a circle, or a straight angle, is 180. And that's just one way that you can remember half of 360. So now I want to kind of see where I'm at. I'm wondering what happens if I add these two together. 720 plus 180. That's going to give me 900, which is what we want. And so if I get 900 by adding these two together, then I get my answer by adding these two together, and that is 25. So 900 divided by 36 is 25. It works the same way, even though we're dividing by a double-digit number. Same process. You could use an area model or an array as well, but that's how you could do this using a ratio table. These are the answers to the optional page, page 226. And so feel free to pause the video, take a look at the work. The answer for letter A is 6,912, and that would be square feet. And for B, the other dimension is 21 inches. And you could have used a different strategy for these, but there's just an example of an array or an area model and then a ratio table for part B. And same thing for number 2. The first one, there's an array. The answer is 950. Second one, I did a ratio table. You could have also used an array or area model, but either way, the answer is 75.